Sales Podcast. I'm your host, Michael Berg, joined as always by Vivian Hudson. Viv, I have a question for you. You had mentioned to me, what was it that you told me the other day about owning a business? That it's a humbling
Uh,
experience.
yes, I said it's one of the best personal development tools that you can get because you know what? You're accountable all the way.
Well, I can definitely attest to that, Viv, because I've been putting together some sales training. And the more research I do, I see one thing that is pretty pervasive across all the different companies that do medical sales training, and that they preach is to not pitch the gatekeeper. And I've been guilty of this countless times, Viv. Countless times. I'm guessing you have as well.
A little bit, but I guess I got some good
All right,
training
thank you, Viv. It's
first
just
up.
me. Yeah.
So I think it's just you. But no, it is easy enough to do, that's for sure. And I think when you go into a medical office, like you can be so excited by your product and you just think that everybody else is going to think that it's so great as well. So you go and you talk to the gatekeeper and you just think it's a no-brainer that they are going to say, oh yeah, here, quick, let me get the doctor for you.
That's right.
and
Well, I think it's
and then
nerves
you,
too. I
yeah,
think it's
yeah,
nervous,
yeah.
and you just say, well, I'm so nervous, I'm just going to get all this information out, and I'm going to do well, here's how it works. And you start going through the whole program with the gatekeeper. But if from all the research I've read, that's a huge mistake. And I've been through corporate sales training for medical sales too. They taught the same thing. I don't know why I never listened, but they teach the same thing. You don't sell somebody that doesn't have the authority to give you a yes. You sell them on the concept, you sell them on the benefits, that there are benefits, and you identify a problem, but you don't tell them what that solution to the problem is. The person who's the decision maker needs to find that out. By teeing it up for that person, then or by titillating them a little bit, that will get you closer to that decision maker. But if you pitch the gatekeeper, you risk them saying, oh, you know what, I don't think the doctor would be interested in that. Viv, in the last industry I was working in, I worked in the dental industry for a while, and
Mhm.
I called on a lot of dental offices because they're all business owners. And I used to do trade shows, and I would crack up because I would be doing a trade show, and this happened repeatedly, where I'm talking to a doctor, comes up to the booth, and we start talking about what we're offering, and wow, this is great. Why don't you stop over at my office? This would be right up my alley. And I'll go back and I'll look at my CRM. I've made 5 stops there, and the gatekeeper told me he would never be interested in this. So that's but the problem is I pitched the gatekeeper. As I look back, that is the issue. So why, in your opinion, is it a big mistake to pitch the gatekeeper besides the obvious, what I just mentioned?
Yeah, well, I think, I mean, we can then mistake once they give you a flat no, that like they are the screening process for the practice. So once you pitch the gatekeeper, you don't kind of have a go-to. It's because if you continue, then it kind of demoralizes that person that is sitting in front of you because then you say, well, are you authorized to make these decisions? Well, of course I am. I'm the gatekeeper. So it's hard for them to then turn around and say, oh, you know what? They might actually think that that's a great solution. So you don't have a good go-to at all. And the other thing is then it makes it difficult for you each time you return to the office. So if you see that same person sitting there, will they remember you that you came in last time? The problem with me doing that was because of my accent, everybody would always remember, oh, you're that Australian lady. so
Hard to
so
blend
you
in,
might
yes.
blend in. Yeah, so you might blend in a little bit better by being sounding a lot more native than I did. But yeah, it is a big mistake because ultimately, as you said, that person at the gate is not the decision maker, and nor do they know exactly what the practice is always looking for, but one of their jobs is told is like, we're really busy today, we don't want to see any reps. So that's the only goal that they have in their mind, is to let as few people back as absolutely possible, because they know that the patients need to stay to their scheduled times and the doctor's under pressure and all those sorts of things. So their goal is not to think, well, what has this guy got that could help our practice? So you really have to work at it from a mindset of perhaps talking to the gatekeeper about, if you can't get back, well, this is something that could really save your practice time, or something like that, without actually spilling the beans, as you say.
That's the key. That's the key right there, Viv, is you got to get yourself into the mindset of that gatekeeper. The gatekeeper isn't there to make your life miserable, although it might seem that way a lot of times. The gatekeeper is there to manage the decision maker's time and to keep out the noise. But at the same point, you want to make it seem as though whatever you're bringing to the table is so powerful and so needed by their office that they'll be negligent if they don't let you through, or at least give you the pathway to get in there. And if you give them the whole sales pitch, you're really tipping your hand. So just like you said, Viv, you talk about a perceived problem that they might be having in their practice, and then talk about some of the benefits of the solution, but you don't actually talk about what the solution is. So I don't have a specific example, but you could take any program, say like the new NeuroDX panel or something.
Yeah.
Do you guys ever find that you have patients that are that you're running a pharmacogenetic test on, and you can tell that they're a metabolizer. You're running a urine tox screen. You can see that the metabolite's present. They're taking the medication, yet they still claim no therapeutic benefit? Yes. Okay, well, I'm not surprised. That applies to 4 out of 10 patients on pain medications. We have a new tool that's available for your practice that's going to mitigate that risk, save you time, and lower the risk for the practice and for the patient. Something like that. You're not talking about what the tool is. You're not saying, well, let me tell you about the way the pathways work and how the receptor sites in the brain. So you have these 8 receptors. No, you just right there you've gone too far with the gatekeeper. So I think
Yeah.
that's the rule of thumb. So last but not least, Viv, here's the other question I get all the time, and this ties into it. Can you leave some paperwork and go the hell away? That's what that's what they ask. And this
I've
this does
actually,
tie into the same thing, because that again, that's giving away your whole. This paperwork says exactly what you're doing, and you're giving it away there, and you're losing control at that point. But what is your response, or what's your advice to a rep who says, Viv, this program has so much paperwork with it, and they're saying, can you just leave something and go away? What do you tell them?
well, I know for me it's an absolute last resort is to leave any paperwork. And I have heard of flyers being left around and then getting phone calls as a result of those flyers. But I have said to people at the desk when they've said, "Oh, well, can you leave us some information?" I'll go, "Look, I can leave you something, but I know that you're just going to throw it in the trash." And they kind of looked at me and said, "Well, how did you know?" So you could leave some paperwork, but there's probably a less than 5% chance that it will get under the doctor's nose at some point. So, and unless it's a pretty amazing flyer.
Yeah, it would have to be pretty amazing. I'm not saying you never leave paperwork. Sometimes you don't have a choice, and if you've tried other methods and those haven't worked, by all means, always try a fresh approach. And hey, I've been in there 5 times. I've been banging my head against the wall. Nothing else is working. They're saying to leave some info. I'll try it, sure.
Mm.
But I try to never leave information if I can. The reason is, which I explain to them, is these programs are very nuanced. If you want me to leave you a whole book of paperwork, I could chop down a couple rainforests and leave you the paperwork. There is so much that I want to make sure that I'm getting the right information. So I'd rather speak to that decision maker, even if it's only for 30 seconds or a minute, and make sure that I'm leaving them information that's pertinent to what they might be looking for before I just start leaving you a bunch of information that may not be pertinent and just filling your office up with unneeded paperwork and just creating more clutter for the doctor, because I'm sure that's not what the doctor is looking for, right? Yes. Okay.
Right.
So
Right.
that's basically how I would handle it.
Yeah. I think one of the other things is that if the gatekeeper's saying, no, you can't see the doctor today, always ask that question, when is a good time? When's a better time to come back and see what kind of information you can get from them? They might shrug their shoulders and go, look, they never see reps or whatever, but you just might get that nugget that they'll tell you, well, Thursday mornings at 10 o'clock, he's usually doing blah, and try coming in then. So you put that on your list, and sometimes that works.
Bottom line, don't pitch the gatekeepers. I know it's tempting. I know it's very tempting to do it, and you're so excited, and it's sometimes the only people you can talk to, and but that's a bad habit to get into. So, okay, thank you.
Thanks, mate.